Take a look at this man. For nearly 3 decades, he has been the face of global fiction. He picks his nose in front of royalty, he forgets the names of his closest allies, preferring to call them Shedhead or Triffles. He has walked into life-or-death battlefields demanding food, and he genuinely believed that putting gold armor on his arm was just a cool, shiny upgrade. To the Marines, the world government, and the casual observer, Monkey D. Luffy is a cosmic accident. A reckless, simple-minded boy who survived the deadliest sea on Earth purely because the universe refused to let him die. But they are entirely wrong. What the world mistakes for idiocy is actually the most dangerous, brilliant mind to ever navigate the Grand Line. Ichiro Oda did not build a fool who happens to be strong. He built a psychological masterpiece. Luffy operates on a razor-thin wire where absolute simplicity transforms into flawless tactical genius. And now, we dismantle the myth of the idiot rubber boy. We are breaking down the hidden history, the physiological evolution, the terrifying psychological machinery, and the apocalyptic future of the King of Freedom. To understand the genius of Luffy's mind, you have to look at the wreckage of his childhood. Luffy was not raised. He was abandoned into survival. His father, Dragon, left him before he could remember. His grandfather, Garp, threw him into bottomless ravines and tied him to balloons in the sky to forge him into a Marine. He was dropped into the wilderness of Mount Kalubo and told to survive among bandits, tigers, and murderers. But his true psychological foundation was built on a lie, the illusion of safety. Think about the Grey Terminal. Right outside the pristine royal walls of the Goa Kingdom sat a mountain of human garbage and outcast people. And what did the civilized rulers do? They locked the gates and burned the trash, along with every living soul inside it, just to look clean for a visiting world noble. Luffy watched this. He breathed the ash of a society built on top of engineered slaughter. At 7 years old, he learned a fundamental truth that most people spend a lifetime trying to ignore. The rules of the world are a trap. The structure, the manners, the laws of the world government, they aren't there to protect you. They are there to keep you compliant until they decide to burn you. And then came red-haired Shanks. Shanks gave Luffy the antidote to the cruelty of the world. He taught him that power isn't meant for tyranny. It's meant for protection and celebration. When the mountain bandit Higuma poured beer on Shanks' head, Luffy screamed with rage. He wanted Shanks to fight. He wanted justice. But Shanks just laughed. Why? Because a spilled drink isn't worth a life. That single moment rewired Luffy's entire psychology. He realized that true strength doesn't care about insults, status, or pride. True strength is knowing exactly what matters. Your friends, your freedom, and letting the rest of the world's noise wash right over you. When Shanks traded his left arm for Luffy's future, he didn't just pass on a straw hat. He anchored Luffy's soul. From that day on, Luffy stopped looking at the world vertically. Who was above me? Who was below me? And started looking at it horizontally. He became entirely unbendable.
Now, let's talk strategy. For decades, fans argued about Luffy's devil fruit. It was introduced to us as the Gomu Gomu no Mi, a simple paramecia fruit that made him rubber. On paper, it is one of the most underwhelming, clumsy powers in shonen history. You can stretch. Great. How do you beat gods, sand logias, and lightning-generating tyrants with that? The answer is simple. You outthink them by changing the physics of your own biology. Luffy's genius lies in his ability to look at a limitation and turn it into a biomechanical weapon. He doesn't treat rubber as a gag. He treats it as an engineering puzzle. While other pirates relied on the natural, destructive elements of their fruits, Luffy had to master the raw physics of tension, potential energy, and internal pressure. Every power-up he developed wasn't handed to him by destiny, it was forced out of his own flesh through deep kinetic understanding. Let's look at how he engineered that evolution, starting with a technique that defied human anatomy.
When Luffy faced CP9 at Eni's lobby, he ran into a wall. They used Sori, a superhuman speed technique that made them invisible to the naked eye. A normal fighter would try to predict their movements or build a defensive shield. Luffy did something entirely insane. He looked at his own vascular system. He asked himself, how can I make my muscles move at the speed of sound? Because his internal organs and blood vessels are made of rubber, they can withstand immense pressure. Luffy used his legs as external pumps, forcing his blood to circulate at a rate that would literally cause a normal human heart to explode. By accelerating his blood flow, he overclocked his metabolism, pumping massive amounts of oxygen and nutrients to his muscles instantly. The result was Gear Second. He didn't just get stronger, he transformed his body into a steam-emitting combustion engine. That isn't the brain of an idiot. That is an advanced, intuitive grasp of cardiovascular physics used to conquer an impossible speed deficit.
But speed wasn't enough. He needed mass. So he invented Gear Third, biting into his thumb and blowing air directly into his bone structure. Because his bones are rubber, they expanded to the size of a literal giant. He didn't just make a big fist, he concentrated the structural density of his skeletal system to mimic the kinetic impact of a falling meteor. Then came the New World, and he unveiled Gear Fourth, Boundman. This is a masterclass in tension physics. Luffy inflated his muscle mass while simultaneously wrapping his body in armament haki. Usually haki hardens the skin, making it rigid, but Luffy managed to balance the hardening properties of haki with the natural elasticity of rubber. He created a state of perpetual compression. When the tyrannical warlord Doflamingo punched him, the punch didn't land on solid skin. It sunk into a highly pressurized rubber spring and shot right back out. Luffy turned defensive vulnerability into kinetic offense, bouncing on the air itself because his muscle tension was so finely tuned. And then, the world broke on the rooftop of Wano Country. The Gorosei revealed the terrifying truth they had hidden for 800 years. There is no Gomu Gomu no Mi. Luffy's fruit is actually a mythical Zoan, the Hito Hito no Mi, model Nika. And when it finally awakened, the line between genius and idiocracy was permanently erased. Gear 5 doesn't just give Luffy a power-up, it alters the narrative style of reality itself. Look at how he fights the unkillable dragon, Kaido. He turns the solid ground into a rubber trampoline. He grabs a bolt of literal lightning out of the sky and hurls it like a javelin. He reaches inside Kaido's body and turns the tyrant's stomach into a cartoon balloon. Why is this a genius technique? Because it is the ultimate psychological weapon. Kaido spent his entire life building an empire based on fear, hierarchy, and absolute crushing military weight. He is the ultimate brutal realist. And Luffy looks at this terrifying god of war and transforms him into a Sunday morning cartoon character.
Gear 5 completely strips away the enemy's dignity. It breaks their logic. How do you formulate a military strategy against a man who can bounce off the open air, laugh through a fatal headshot, and whose fighting style is limited only by his imagination? You can't. Gear 5 is the physical manifestation of an untamable mind. It takes his lifelong goofiness and scales it up into a cosmic threat. The world government didn't spend 800 years chasing this fruit because it had the highest destructive output. They chased it because it represents absolute unpredictability. In a world governed by rigid rules, strict hierarchies, and calculated oppression, a man who fights with pure, unadulterated absurdity is completely immune to control. Luffy doesn't defeat his enemies by outthinking their master plans. He defeats them by rendering their master plans entirely irrelevant. He forces them to play a game where the rules change every time he laughs. If Luffy's tactical mind is sharp, his emotional intelligence is downright terrifying. We live in a world and a genre where protagonists love to give speeches. They want to understand the villain's philosophy, or they want to dissect their friend's complex trauma to find a logical, structured solution. Luffy doesn't give a damn about your logic, and he completely bypasses the noise. Think back to Arlong Park, when Nami is sitting in the dust, crying and stabbing her own shoulder to erase Arlong's branded tattoo. Luffy doesn't ask her for a tactical breakdown of Arlong's forces. He doesn't ask how much money she owes. He doesn't ask for a map. He stands there in absolute silence until she looks up and finally begs for help. The moment she speaks, he steps forward, places his most prized possession, his straw hat, on her head, walks out to the center of the town, and roars into the sky. He didn't need to know the politics of the fishmen. He only needed to know that his friend was hurting. This emotional shortcut happens every single time. When he arrives at Drum Island and Vivi tells him that a true leader doesn't fight every battle with fists, that he needs to bow his head to save a sick Nami. Luffy doesn't argue out of pirate pride. He immediately drops to his knees in the freezing snow. He absorbs deep psychological lessons instantly because he has zero ego. Look at his relationship with his crew. A traditional genius leader tries to control every variable. They manage the logistics, the navigation, the cooking, and the strategy. Luffy does the exact opposite. He abdicates all authority to his crew because he trusts their specific genius implicitly. He knows he can't navigate. He knows he's a terrible cook. He knows he can't use swords, he can't lie, and he can't clean. By stepping back and letting Zoro handle the defense, Nami handle the sea, and Sanji handle the kitchen, Luffy protects his crew's autonomy. He provides the one thing none of them have on their own, an absolute, unbreakable shield of freedom that allows them to pursue their own dreams without fear.
Luffy's lack of a personal agenda is exactly what makes him a political black hole. He doesn't want to conquer territories, he doesn't want to exact revenge on the world, and he doesn't care about collecting subjects. Because he wants nothing from people except their freedom, people are naturally drawn to strip away their own armor around him. Think about Marineford. The greatest war of the era is raging around him. Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, is watching this rookie fall from the sky. Within minutes, Luffy is commanding Whitebeard's commanders, defying the fleet admiral, and rallying total strangers to shield his body. The world's greatest swordsman, Dracul Mihawk, stood on that battlefield, watched Luffy, and realized the terrifying truth. He said, "It's not some special power or technique. He has the ability to make allies of everyone he meets on those seas, and that is the most formidable power in the entire ocean." Luffy doesn't conquer by force. He conquers by altering the gravity of the people around him.
So, where does the thin line between genius and idiocracy lead us now? We have officially entered the final saga. The status quo of the entire world has completely shattered. The incident at Egghead Island proved that the world government can no longer hide the truth from the public. And right now, the Straw Hat Pirates are stepping onto the massive, ancient soil of Elbaf. For 800 years, the Gorosei and the Celestial Dragons kept the world fragmented. They flooded the memory of the Void Century. They erected physical and political walls, managed the flow of information, and executed anyone who even tried to read the historical poneglyphs. They built a world of supreme, suffocating order. They calculated every single variable to ensure their eternal reign from the empty throne. They prepared for revolutionaries, they prepared for rival pirate emperors, and they prepared for military insurrections. But they did not prepare for a god of chaos who doesn't even know what they are trying to hide.
Luffy doesn't care about the grand history of the world. He doesn't care about the true identity of Joy Boy, even though he carries his literal devil fruit awakening. If you sat Luffy down right now and tried to explain the complex political layout of the ancient weapons, Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus, he would fall asleep within 3 seconds. And that is exactly why the 5 elders are completely terrified of him. You can outmaneuver a revolutionary like Monkey D. Dragon because he plays the political game. He acts with calculation, moves resources, and follows a recognizable logic. You can predict an ambitious pirate like Blackbeard because he's driven by historical destiny, meticulous planning, and a desire for structural power. But how do you stop a man who is turning the final apocalyptic war of the world into a playground? How do you negotiate with someone who doesn't want your throne, doesn't want your gold, and just wants everyone on Earth to be able to eat as much meat as they want?
The future ahead isn't about Luffy conquering the world. It's about Luffy dissolving the world's chains. When he finally reaches Laugh Tale and claims the One Piece, he won't use it to establish a new empire. He won't become a dictator who replaces the old regime. He will use it to shatter the entire global infrastructure. The ancient secrets will not be weaponized for control. They will be unleashed to level the playing field entirely. Luffy's journey to the final island is a direct threat to the geography of oppression. His ultimate goal, to be the freest person on the ocean, requires an ocean that has no walls, no forbidden zones, and no celestial masters. When the red line inevitably crumbles and the seas are reconnected into one true open ocean, it won't be because of a complex political treaty. It will be because a rubber boy decided that a world with borders is a world where his friends can't sail freely.
So we return to our final question. Is Monkey D. Luffy a genius, or is he an idiot? The truth is, he is both, and he is neither. Luffy is pure clarity. We live in a world that overcomplicates everything. We build massive, suffocating social structures. We trap ourselves in anxieties. We create elaborate systems of rules, and we completely lose ourselves in the background noise of our own lives. Luffy strips every single bit of that baggage away. He looks at the world with the absolute, unfiltered simplicity of a child, but he executes his will with the terrifying, unyielding focus of a god. He didn't cross the line between genius and idiocracy. He looked at the line, laughed at it, and deleted it from existence entirely. He is the ultimate reminder that sometimes the smartest thing you can do in a corrupt world is refuse to play by its rules. And that is why, when the smoke clears and the world is turned upside down, he will be the king of the pirates.
If this deep dive completely changed how you look at the future Pirate King, do me a massive favor. Hit that like button right now so the algorithm knows we're setting sail. Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown when the final saga chapters drop. And finally, drop a comment below. Do you think Luffy knows exactly what he's doing? Or is his complete lack of a filter his ultimate superpower? Let me know your theories, and I'll see you guys out on the Grand Line. Peace.